Good morning, everyone. You all enjoyed the party last night? Yeah? I guess the fact that you're all here this morning for the first presentation indicates you didn't overindulge too much. I was certainly really pleased to get the first morning presentation after the summit party. It's always a good slot to get, but you can't overindulge yourself like before. Anyway, so my name is John Iball. I'm Director of Product Management for Alfresco, working primarily on Alfresco 1. And this morning I'm going to talk to you about how you can use reporting analytics to gain insights into how content has been used inside your business. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at the business rationale behind it, our latest offering, and then we'll finish with a demonstration of how to create some reports and dashboards. First of all, I'd like to look at the drivers behind reporting analytics, the need for them in the business, particularly focused around content. So what's the problem? Well, for those of you that were in John Newton's excellent keynote yesterday evening, as he said, businesses are getting old and fat, that we're not seeing the continuous increase in productivity, and they're facing very stiff competition from, particularly from Asia, who are gaining in efficiency, gaining in productivity. So businesses are looking to cut costs, improve efficiency, gain productivity. The report analytics gives them the tools they need to get the insights they need and provide feedback as to whether they are actually improving or not. Then there's the content explosion. I think we've all seen this, and one nice stat I like is IBM's quote that 90% of all the content in existence today was created in the last 2 years. Now, I don't know how believable that is, no way of proving it, but I think it's indicative of this huge exponential growth in content that's hitting our businesses, and in particular our end users, and how they deal with it. How does it affect their productivity? How does it affect the way they can go about their daily activities? We really need to sort the wheat from the chaff in terms of content, understand what valuable content is, and it is the minority of content, and where the dross is, where the content you don't need to be keeping, and probably shouldn't keep, should be deleting. So you're only managing the important content, important information. And report analytics, I think, we will show you later, can help identify what the important, what the valuable content is. So overall, we're looking to extract the maximum value from the content that people are processing in the organisation. But more than that, we're looking to provide feedback, information as to whether you're making progress, whether the change you're making to business are actually improving the situation or not. So that's the problem. Now, what's our solution? What are we actually going to be bringing to market in Alfresco in the reporting analytics module? Well, it is just that. It's a module. It's an enterprise-only module, a chargeable item. And we're going to be OEMing Pentaho Enterprise Edition. So we went through a long selection process looking at a number of enterprise reporting analytics providers. In particular focus on the open source providers. And for various reasons, Pentaho came out on top. We're really delighted to be working with them as our reporting and analytics partner. We feel they're really good at stuff, dominating the market, particularly on the open source side, and making significant advances and really accelerating growth. We've chosen to work on the web interface that Pentaho provides, and embed that into Share. Now that's primarily because we want to keep things simple plus smart. Smart in the back end, the way we're capturing all the information, the way we're analysing using Pentaho, but simple in terms of the way we present the reports to the user through a simple web interface. And indeed, the tools to generate the reports, also web-based. Now that's not to say that you can't, if you wish, look at using Pentaho's desktop report builders, desktop analysis systems. They've got some very sophisticated tools. But you'll have to invest significant time and effort into doing that. So we just want to make sure we give our customers, our users, the ability to get up and running as fast as possible. So the system will require a separate Pentaho server, Enterprise Edition server. And as part of the work that we've had to do to develop the reporting analytics, we've had to create a whole new event capture framework. We initially looked at using our auditing capability and our activities feed. But for various reasons, be that scalability, performance, or just lack of completeness in terms of information we want to capture, we need to be able to report on, we decided we needed a new framework. So we've created that. We've also created the data mart that we're using to report on our reporting schema. And we also deliver the ETL jobs, the tasks, extract, transform, and load that you need to get the data continually out of Alfresco into a format whereby Pentagon can report it, and we can load that back into Alfresco. So that's the solution in a nutshell. Let's look at who we're targeting the solution at, what the sort of use case, how we see it being used. I guess these aren't really personas, they're really sort of job titles. I haven't actually assigned names to anything yet, but the key roles we're looking at is IT systems administrator, people that are required to keep the system up and running, to make provision for storage and access and so on. The line of business manager, the project manager, potentially the product manager, who's looking to gain insights to improve the efficiency of his teams and make sure his processes are running. The content consumer is using content day in, day out just to get their jobs done. And finally, the business analyst who's looking to gain insight into how the business is running so they can make improvements and make recommendations as to what needs to change. So we'll go through those in a bit more detail, look at why in particular they need reporting analytics, what sort of things they're looking for. So systems admin, why does he need this? Well, first of all, he's responsible, measured in part by the success of the ECM system. He's probably had a part in recommending it. So it's in his interest to have it adopted, have it used, be able to show user adoption. So reporting analytics can help show the way it's being used, how well users are engaged with it, the user adoption levels. But he's also required to maintain it. So he needs to look at storage requirements, access requirements, how much networking you need to deliver. And finally, potentially you might be required to manage the sites. Actually, one problem we have is site proliferation, and being able to look at which sites are active, which are inactive, which are dormant, which are redundant, so we can get rid of them, is another potential item we might want to look at. Then we've got the line of business manager, the project manager. Why does she need reporting analytics? Well, she's making changes continuously to her teams, responding to business demands. So she needs to be able to measure the effectiveness of those changes. She also needs to look at the people on her team, look at who the productive users are, who perhaps the least productive users are, and understand the content that's being produced, how it helps her with her job, her goals. She can also look at the areas of activity across multiple projects, multiple sites, multiple products perhaps, running the products on a site-by-site basis, and seeing where the hotspots in activity are, or indeed the troughs in activity, what's getting done, what isn't getting done. Give advance warning as to where she might need to take action. And then she's got process, the business processes she's managing, understands where the bottlenecks are, so she can address them, so she can improve the efficiency of them. Moving on to the content consumer, what are they interested in regarding reporting analytics? Well, this I think is a simple use case, but just important. They're after understanding what the hot content is. Again, going back to this idea of valuable content. What his colleagues are working on. Because if it's interesting for her colleagues, it's probably interesting for her as well. And also it gives an indication as to where the intellectual property lies within the colleagues. Who to go in after if she's got a problem. Who the main contributors are. It can also be used so she can assess how she's getting on compared with her peers in terms of the way she's using content. Is she contributing her fair share? Is she creating content that's valuable enough? So measure her own performance, reporting analytics can help with that as well. And then we've got the business analyst. This is a much broader remit, and he's really looking for the way the content, the people, the process are interacting, how those cogs are turning. They're looking for the trends in the way the business processes are running, looking at ways of improving the efficiency, and looking to measure the changes that they make to see whether actually are having the required impact or the hoped for impact. Again, looking for where value is being generated in the organisation, where is the content that's proving most useful internally and externally, potentially. Again, who's generating the value? Who the most valuable employees are? Who's not pulling their weight? Who's actually perhaps not producing enough content, not producing enough valuable content. And look at the way the content profile's changing, what tools they need to provide to adjust to the way new types of content are being used. And this list goes on and on. To some extent, the business analyst, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. So we need to provide tools to allow him to slice and dice the data any which way he chooses to gain the insights he needs. To some extent, he needs to be able to experiment as well. So bearing that in mind, what are the questions we can answer today with the reporting analytics package? Well, really revolves around who are the users, what are they doing, the activities they're performing on the content, what content they're actually performing on, where is that occurring in the organisation, and when is it occurring, so you can measure trends and changes over time. So the sort of reports we're looking at, we've already mentioned some of these, is what's the most valuable content. And you can decide that on a business by business basis. Is it, in some cases, just the content that's being downloaded the most? Is it the content that's being shared or liked or updated the most if it's hot? It's something that's a rapidly changing part of the business. And then who's creating that content? Now the most engaged users, the people who are creating the most value, aren't necessarily the ones that are creating the most content. It's an indicator for sure, but you actually want to look at the users that are creating the content you've deemed valuable. And then look at activity trends across site, what's going on where, so you can anticipate potential drop-off in activity, spikes in activity, and try and understand why that's occurring and adjust your business suitably to match that trend. Then there's process reporting. How are individual processes running? Are they late? Are they on time? What are the longest running processes consistently? Because that's where potentially you've got the opportunity to make the biggest change, the biggest efficiency gains. Who's collaborating on the most valuable piece of content? We can see who's actually creating that, but who's actually then going on to contribute to it? Who's actually editing that content that's being downloaded the most, or being viewed the most, or shared? And then you might want to look at the content lifecycle, looking at its activity profile over time. Content initially might be downloaded a lot, it's current, people are interested in it, but then that may naturally trail off. By looking at those trends, you can see whether the content needs updating, whether it's now redundant, whether it needs replacing, or whether in fact people are looking at the content you don't want them to look at, whether they're focusing in the wrong areas. So looking at content activity over time. So there's sort of questions we can ask. How do we actually answer those questions? What sort of functionality are we going to be delivering with the Alfresco reporting analytics module? Well, having said that this is an enterprise-only product, we've actually included a little bit of reporting in community. This doesn't require the entire enterprise edition, and there's only a couple of site-based reports. I'll show you those in a second. But it's to give you an idea about how you might want to go about producing some reports for querying Solar. So it's, if you like, some sample information. But the main thrust is around the enterprise. And there are essentially two types of reporting we're looking at. There's canned reports, where we've looked at the business requirements that are going to be common across a lot of industries, a lot of our customers. And we've predefined those, and we're going to be including those already with the package release. And they're primarily site-based or user dashboard-based. So there'll be reports for a particular site, for a particular user. And then we've got ad hoc reporting, primarily for business analysts, trying to understand in a bit more detail about what's going on, trying to tailor it to your particular business requirements. So we're allowing the user to create and save their own reports, build your own dashboards, and do the investigation, slice and dice the data as you choose. So going into a bit more detail, community, this graphic is showing just the two charts we're showing. First one, they're both based on Solar queries. First is, the top report is just a breakdown of the site content, showing you the type of content in the site, whether that be rich media, whether it be PDFs, whether it be contracts, images, whatever. Just so you get a feel for what type of site this is, and perhaps what tools you need to access the site. And the next one is the top contributors by amount of content uploaded. So this is just giving an indication as to the users who are contributing most to the site, where perhaps the knowledge lies for that site. And this, unfortunately, is all demo data, so this was like, you've got about 20 users all contributing even numbers of amounts of data. Then we've got the canned reports. This is just a canned report dashboard, and it's really focusing on user activity, then where the activity is occurring, site-based activity, and then process activity. So the user activity, we want to be able to report on all the different actions users can take on content: uploading, downloading, editing, reading, sharing, liking, and so on. Be able to report on the most active, least active users, and be able to select date ranges so you can see whether which the most active users are in the past month, the past 2 months, whatever period you choose. And it's really providing a high-level insight of who's contributing really the most content, who's doing the most activities. That's not necessarily who's contributing value. We'll come on to that a little bit later. But it's certainly an indication of activity levels. Similarly with site-based activity reports. If single sites are reporting across multiple sites, be able to compare them. And again, be able to filter on any activity associated with the site. You've got a contract site, you might want to see just documents being uploaded, or content's being created over time. Being able to dig deeper into that so you can see when there are times in the month where content's being added. So it's providing you a view of how relative sites are performing, what the activity trends are, whether activities are increasing or decreasing, whether there are spikes. And those sites could be departments, they could be particular projects, they could be products, whatever you're running in your business. So it's about giving advanced warning of potential problems so that you can change the way you do things. And finally, from a CAN report perspective, we've got process reporting. So we're looking at everything around processes. How long it takes to complete the tasks, and the processes made up of the tasks. What content's involved in the process. Who's assigned those tasks. It's going to provide you some insight as to which processes are running on time, which are late. Again, where the long-running processes are, where you can make potentially the largest gains, and where the bottlenecks are, and potentially who's causing them. So that's a very high-level view of the canned reports and the community reports. For the ad hoc reports, what I'm going to do is run a demo to actually create these reports live and build up a dashboard to show them. And going back to the business questions we asked earlier, just selecting 3 of those, just as an example of how to build the reports and the sort of value we can deliver. The first one is going to be looking at who's creating the most valuable content. So we're going to look at how we define value on an activity base and then seeing who's actually creating that content. When we've identified that valuable content, who's actually collaborating on it, who's working, who's gaining value from it, who's providing input. And finally, looking at the content lifecycle, looking at how pieces of content, how the activities of the content varies over time. Very important to do that. Okay, so we're going to switch across to share. Now here we've got an administrative dashboard, currently blank. We're going to start by going into the report builder. So I click on Analytics here, where I've got suitable privileges. I can click Analyze. I go over here, I can either open an existing report, I've got something I've already created here, but I want to create a new report. And this is a list of queues. In this case, we've just got content use activities. There will be a process report as well. You can also build reports for. In this case, I'm just going to select content and user activities. And down the left-hand side of the screen, we can see that. Not too well, actually. Hopefully you can see that we've got all the different parameters that you want to be able to report on. So we've got the activities. We've got the types of events we want to report on around content. Where the interaction is coming from, whether it's from an end user, whether it's from a remote client, whether it's through an API potentially. Then we've got the time is occurring, the date range is occurring on a year, month, and day basis. The type of data that we can report on, MIME type breakdown. The size of the data, file size range, putting the size into buckets. And then the content itself with, in this case, so far, just content name and content size. Potentially you have content type as well. You might want to extend that to include other attributes around the content. And then the users. At the moment, just simple information around their usernames. The containers where the content is stored. Information around the sites in particular. And then these are measures of the numbers of activities, the number of users, the number of files that we can report on. So first of all, we wanted to look at the most valuable content. So I'm going to select content name. I'll build up the table initially. We want to have a look at the number of events, number of activities associated with that. We'll filter this at this time. And then perhaps we do want to filter it on the event type. So I can drag this across, drag it to the filter, and we're interested in, I want to know who's added the file set, but then I want to understand what's generating value. So I'm going to say that a valuable file is something that's got a lot of activities around comments. It's downloaded a lot, certainly liked, previewed, and shared for this particular business application. So that's then filtered that. Okay. So I'm also going to drag across the event type here because I want to understand who's actually adding the files. So we've got the most valuable content already sorted, top 10, well, so I haven't sorted that yet. I need to select the top 10 items by number of activities, so I can just go in here, do top 10, filter on content name by number of events. So it's taking the most active documents according to this definition of value, according to the sum of all these activities. One more thing I want to do is I actually want to be able to drill down into a bit more detail on the report, click through links to see who has done the activities. So I can save that. And that's looking good. One thing I ought to point out is this is demo data, so we couldn't create 100,000 files. So we created a few dozen files, and we put lots of activities in each file. So typically, each file is going to have one file addition, not 446. Okay? So bear with me on that. You'll get the idea. So I've created this report. I should be able to click through here, and it should tell me, in this case, there'll be a list of users that have created the report. Normally it would just be one. And I'm going to select the columns I want to see. I want to deselect all of these, and I'm only interested in the username of the person that's performing the action. So go down here, click that, and whenever I click on that link, I will just get the user and the action. And I'm looking at the creator of the piece of content, it will just have one user, one event, the creator of the file. Okay. So I've created this. Now how do I expose that in a dashboard? How do I actually make it accessible to users within Share? Well, I'm also going to save it. And I'm going to call this value. Okay, so I've created that file. Now if I return to the dashboard, I can actually start configuring the dashboard to show reports. We need to add a dashlet, and we'll see here that we have custom reports to the dashlet. So I'm going to let's have a few reports in here. So I simply do this. I save that, and then I can actually start loading up the reports that I've created. So you see here the value demo 1, I think the report we just created. We can load that. We've now got that particular table, that report generated. So this is showing the top 10 items in terms of most valuable. And I can click on who's adding that. I can also click on who's actually commenting, who's downloading it. If I click on that, it gives me the name of the user that's created that piece of valuable content straight away. So that's a table. I'm going to go back into the report generator, and the next thing I want to look at is who's collaborating on that valuable content. Perhaps we'll produce a graphical representation of that. So again, I go into this, and I'm looking at, again, content. So I want to pull up the content as one component. But I'm also interested now in who's actually accessing it. So I'm going to take the username, drop that on there. And again, we're looking at activity levels to determine the value of the content. So I want number of events as the measure. Drag that across there. I also want some filters, because I want, again, just the top 10 content items. So again, select the top 10 for this report, top 10 content by number of events. So the top 10 most popular items. But I also want to filter by event type, because so that's by total activities. But I want to actually look at, in this case, I want to see what the user is doing in terms of editing. I want to see which users are actually editing the content. So I'm going to select file update, move that across, save it. So that's a table, but I want a more graphic visualization of this. So I've got a number of different chart options. I don't want a column, I don't want a line graph table. I think I want, it's not a pie chart, but a sunburst chart. So this is now showing the top 10 most active pieces of content and the users that are editing it in particular. So these are just the user edits, the number of edits they've made on each of these pieces of content. And again, we can select, as I showed yesterday, particular items. We want to zoom into any item. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to save that. And we're going to call this collaboration. So that's now saved. And again, I can go back to the dashboard. And perhaps I want to load that into here. So I'll load collaboration into there. And now this report is active. But again, I can dig into this. I can select particular items. Decide to keep those. So we've built up a graphic report very quickly, very easily. Okay, so I think we've just got one more report we want to look at, and that's the content lifecycle, the activities of this content over time. Okay, so again, I want a piece of content, so I need to pull this over as part of the report. So it needs to go to the column. But I want to report against time. I want to see the profile against time. We'll do it on a month-by-month basis. And we're going to measure the total number of events. Okay, and I think we'll filter on just the top 10 pieces of content. Okay, so we've got a table, but that's not particularly interesting. I'd rather have a line graph on this. So I can select line. And then we've got the top 10 most active piece of content over that time period. Like a filter, I want to filter particular time segments. Here are the piece of content, and here's the profile. And it's not looking good for this piece of content. The activity is trailing off, not being used as much as perhaps it was initially. So I can save that. Again. And add that into perhaps what's here. Collaboration into there. Oops, wrong one. Sorry. Left side into there. And I can configure my dashboard using any of the reports I've created. If I want to have user logins here. So it's very, very straightforward to create some quite sophisticated reports, load them to the dashboard, and then publish them for your users.
So I'm an enterprise client, and I'm really excited to see analytics. How do I go ahead and deploy this? Is this coming bundled with 5.0, or I have to spin up a separate Extensibility server?
No, it's an app. So you need to spin up an instance of the entire server, and then it's a module going on, much the same way as records management or transformation server. So it's a separate app. Yes?
When you designed this report, you picked a set of list of columns. Is that extensible? Can I get something like extracted information?
Well, perhaps if I just go back to finish the presentation a second, we can just go through all items, because yeah, that is the next item actually. So, extensibility is one question that's bound to come up, and we've got this events framework where you can create, you can extend it yourself. So if you've got particular events, particular types of activities you want to do, yes, you can do that, and it will automatically put up in that list of parameters. So yeah, is it certainly extensible? Other ways you can extend it, you can create your own visualizations using the Pentaho tools, the desktop-based tools, or using our cube, our data mart. So yeah, we have built in extensibility, for sure. Just need an enterprise edition to be able to extend this to the most of the requirements. Another thing is, this is where we are at the moment with reporting on the standard data model. We're going to be adding additional canned reports as we start to get more feedback from yourselves about what you're really interested in with reporting analytics. And it's one of these things that until we get out in the field, until we start having real using it in real business situations, in a broad span of situations, we won't really know where the value lies. We've got an idea, but to understand how people are really using it, once they get their hands on it, that's critically important. We'll create new reports and new capabilities based on our feedback from that. We'll be adding our own additional events, and we'll be providing the ability to report on custom data points rather than just the parameters you've seen so far. Yes?
Permission model, how would it work? For instance, if I have permission only to particular objects, will the report give me everything or only what I have permission?
So the reports, we haven't taken the ACLs and put those into Pentaho. That was just not practical. So the reports are either repository-wide, in which case you have to have the access requirements to see all the data. You like to report down to the super user, or they're site or user-based. So they're site-based, publish a report to a site. We've got a CAN report to a site, and then only members of that site can access those reports. So that's the way we've chosen to do it. It's the most pragmatic way of approaching access control. Really honouring the Alfresco permissions. It does raise a potential issue if you're working outside of Alfresco. If you're working in Pentaho, then obviously you potentially can have access to data across the whole repository, so you have to enforce your own security around Pentaho. But yeah, that's how we're doing it. Yes?
this pretty much share-centric?
Yeah. Yes, this is share-centric. What you're seeing is all in share. Not necessarily restricted to that. If you wanted to use Pentaho outside of share, you certainly could.
So our first use case is we don't use share at all. We pretty much have application integration. And we have time we have seen and we generate this kind of proposal we're talking about. Can this be used for laying out access to?
Yes, I mean, the way we've exposed the screens you've seen, the report generation and the report rendering, you can do that yourself. It's using iframes. It's well-known technology, so you could actually expose that very quickly potentially. You have to look at managing permissions, obviously, because we're looking to control access based on site access. Where the reports are in the areas where users want access to. And it's reported just in that data. So that would be one challenge you have. But you've got access potentially to the cubes that we've created. In order to do your own thing.
Clarification here, right? So when you use layout at Alfresco, you don't have the concept of site. Pretty much over spaces and content and all the stuff behind it.
Sorry.
So when you don't use share, you have the concept of site.
Yeah.
Pretty much go against.
There's a repository, yes, you'll be looking at the repository. You'll be able to actually select a filter on sites if you want to just one of the parameters. But you have to be aware that the users who've got access to this could have access to all the data. Yes?
I have potentially two questions depending on the answer to the first one. Do the reports on the dashboards update in real time?
In terms of when the data changes, no. Well, it depends how fast you're running the ETL tasks. At the moment, we're anticipating that they'll typically run on a daily basis, but there's nothing to stop you running it more frequently. Instead of getting what limits there's no reason why you couldn't run it every 10 minutes. So you could run it as frequently as you like. So near to real time is certainly possible. You just have to be aware of the ETL, but placing some load on the server.
And can you save or export or whatever the results, like a snapshot in time? Can you save them or export them to?
That's something we haven't got at the moment, actually. So no, we haven't got anything. We haven't got the ability to actually export this fast because they're updated in real time as you visualize the report. So it's something we think about.
Yeah, you can create a filter for that time period. So if you want to go back in your back 6 months, you can do that to filter. Yeah.
Yes, you could take a snapshot in history. If you want to go back and see what the situation was 6 months ago, you can certainly do that. But actually getting a shot for presenting in another way, that's not possible. Yes?
So you mentioned earlier that it's solar-based.
No, it's not solar-based. The community reports there's a couple of community reports. One option was to look at using the capabilities of solar, but the data that's captured in solar is not really what we need for sort of reporting analytics. You can extend what you're indexing in solar and potentially report on that, but that's not where we've chosen to go. We chose to go the Pentaho route just because we feel that's they're focused on reporting analytics. Solar's focused really on search.
So what's actually kind of confused, like when you say it's solar-based?
It's not solar-based, sorry,
It's not.
I should be clear. The reporting analytics module is all Pentaho. Okay, it's not solar-based at all. But we've created a couple of reports for the community, and those reports are using solar queries.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a community,
Okay.
a couple of community reports using solar. Yes?
Can you, as far as the criteria, could you limit it based on folder?
Yes.
Okay.
We've got folders. Get it shaken, we had folders as part of the data structure of the nodes.
I think we chose not to.
Okay.
I didn't do that.
No, apparently.
Okay.
We had.
As far as the data that's collected, is there a process or something that would clean up the data as it's collected? After a while, I'm assuming that all this data that's collected grows and grows.
There are methods that you can clean up the data within Pentaho. It's not something we're looking at. That's something really is part of the reporting analytics system. So you need some capability, some understanding of Pentaho. It's not something we will deliver. We are delivering a tool to clean up the reporting analytics databases. But Pentaho will have tools in place to allow you to do that. Okay, I think we're pretty much run slightly over the start of it. So thank you very much for your time.